Welcome into the world of HTML. 3. Boot up your computer.
Windows sign in dialog.
2. Grab some comfort food. 1. And let's go. Hey guys, what's up? It's your girl Quinn here, and I'm back with another video in the HTML series. Yes, I know I didn't post last week, but you guys must know when you don't see an upload from me, I have been extremely busy. But even though I'm still a little busy this week, I tried my best to get this upload out for you guys. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to style the border of your elements in HTML using CSS. But before we get into it, please remember to like the video if you love the content, subscribe if you're new, and to turn on that notification bell to be alerted whenever I post a new video. Also note that the instrumentals for this video have been provided by Inner Sanctum Entertainment Ltd. But without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, if you haven't watched my last video in which I explained the CSS box model, it's crucial for you to do so before getting into this. So, if you watched that video, you'll remember me saying that each HTML element has a border around it. This may not be shown by default, but it is possible to add borders around your elements. Just think of it as every element having a box around it. And a box has 4 sides, so there is one to the top, one to the right, one to the bottom, and one to the left. We can specify the style, width, and color of an element's border with the CSS border property. And before we get into this, I must note to you that I won't be doing any demonstration for this video because with the border of elements, there isn't really any reporting that we can do with the screen reader. So you would have to ask someone sighted if what you were actually intending to do if it was done. But I'm going to teach you guys how to do the stuff nevertheless. Let's start with the style of the border. We can specify the type of border to be displayed by using the border-style property. These are the possible values for this property. Dotted. This defines a dotted border. Dashed. This defines a dashed border. Solid. This defines a solid line border. Double. This defines a double line border. Groove. This defines a 3D groove border. Ridge. This defines a 3D ridge border. Inset. This defines a 3D inset border. Outset. This defines a 3D outset border. None. This defines no border. Hidden. This defines a hidden border. Note that for all the 3D border styles, the effect depends on the border-color value. So here is an example of using the border-style property. Let's set it to dotted.
H1 left brace. 2 space border dash style colon, dotted semi. No indent right brace.
Let's go through that by character.
B, O, R, D, E, R, dash, S, T, Y, L, E, colon, space, D, O, T, T, E, D, semi.
It is also possible to set the style for each side of the border with the border-style property. You would have to arrange the values in this order. The top border, then the right border, the bottom border, and then the left border. So it's basically going around the box in a clockwise direction. For example,
H1 left brace. 2 space border dash style colon, dotted dashed solid double semi. No indent right brace.
Alright, let's go through that by character.
B, O, R, D, E, R, dash, S, T, Y, L, E, colon, space, D, O, T, T, E, D, space, D, A, S, H, E, D, space, S, O, L, I, D, space, D, O, U, B, L, E, semi.
In this example, the top border will be dotted, the right border will be dashed, the bottom border will be solid, and the left border will be double. Note that the border-style property must be set before any other border property will take effect. It's just like baking a cake really. I first have to determine the type of cake that I will be baking before I buy the ingredients, give it a color, and choose how big it will be. Also, the border dash style property is allowed 1 to 4 values. I already showed you 2 examples, one that had 1 value and the other that had 4 values. When 2 values are specified, the first applies to the top and bottom and the second applies to the left and right. When 3 values are specified, the first applies to the top, the second applies to the left and right, and the third to the bottom. I will demonstrate this when we move on to the next border property, which is width. We can specify the width of the 4 borders of an element with the border dash width property. There are 2 ways in which you can set the width, either with a specific size or with one of the predefined values. If using a specific size, you can use px for pixels, pt for points, cm for centimeter, and etc. And if you guys don't know what these units are, you can go ahead and watch my last video, which I also explained CSS units. Okay, so now here's an example. Let's set the border width to 5 pixels.
H1 left brace, 2 space border dash style colon, solid semi, border dash width colon, 5 px semi, no indent right brace.
Let's go through that by character.
B O R D E R dash W I D T H colon, space, 5 px semi.
You can also use one of the predefined values, which are thin, medium, or thick. For example,
H1 left brace, 2 space border dash style colon, solid semi, border dash width colon, thin semi, no indent right brace.
Let's go through that by character.
B O R D E R dash W I D T H colon, space, T H I N semi.
You can also set the widths for specific sides of the border. The border dash width property can have from 1 to 4 values. Just like the border dash style property, we move clockwise around the box. Therefore, the values would have to be in the order top, right, bottom, left. When a single value is provided, the border dash width value will apply to all sides of the box. When 2 values are provided, the first value will apply to the top and bottom of the box, and the second value will apply to the left and right sides. For example,
H1 left brace, 2 space border dash style colon, solid semi, border dash width colon, 5 px 10 px semi, no indent right brace.
And let me read that by character.
B O R D E R dash W I D T H colon, space, 5 px space 1 0 px semi.
So you see that each value is separated by a space. In that example, the top and bottom border will be 5 pixels and the left and right borders will be 10 pixels. When 3 values are provided, the first value will apply to the top border. The second value will apply to the left and right sides, and the third value would apply to the bottom border. For example,
H1 left brace, 2 space border dash style colon, solid semi, border dash width colon, 5 px 10 px 15 px semi, no indent right brace.
And I don't have to go through that one by character because by now you should know that they are separated by spaces. When 4 values are provided, just like with the border dash style property, the first value would apply to the top, the second value would apply to the right, the third to the bottom, and the fourth to the left. Note that you can combine specific sizes and predefined values in the border dash width property. Now let's move on to border color. The border dash color property is used to set the color for the 4 borders. The color can be set by either using a predefined CSS color name, a hex, RGB, or HSL value. For a guide on using these methods of adding color, you can check my tutorial in which I explained and demonstrated using CSS colors. Note that if border dash color is not set, it inherits the color of the element. Here is an example of using the border dash color property.
H1 left brace, 2 space border dash style colon, solid semi, border dash color colon, blue semi, no indent right brace.
Let's read that line by character.
B O R D E R dash C O L O R colon, space, B L U E semi.
So in this example, all the border sides will be blue. Note that just like the border dash style and border dash width, the border dash color also allows from 1 to 4 values. So just like I demonstrated before, you can use either 1, 2, 3 or 4 values. Just make sure that you separate each value by a space. Now let's move on to shorthand. It is also possible to specify all the individual border properties in one property. This is the shorthand property and is represented by the word border. It represents the individual border properties in this order: border dash width, border dash style, and border dash color. Of these 3 values, the border dash style is the only mandatory one. This is great when you just want to have one width, style, and color for all your border sides. Here is an example.
H1 left brace, 2 space border colon, 5px solid blue semi, no indent right brace.
And let's go through that by character.
B, O, R, D, E, R, colon, space, 5, P, X, space, S, O, L, I, D, space, B, L, U, E, semi.
In this example, all the border sides will be 5 pixels, solid and blue. You can also specify all the individual border properties for just one side. You would do this by using border dash the name of the side. For example, let's set some values for the left border.
H1 left brace, 2 space border dash left colon, 10px solid green semi, no indent right brace.
So this is just for the left border. So it will be 10px solid and green. And you can do this for the top, right, and bottom borders as well. You would just replace the word left with top, right, or bottom. Now let's move on to rounded borders. There is also a way to make your elements borders rounded. This is done by using the border dash radius property. It defines the radius of the element's corners. This property also allows from 1 to 4 values. When it has 4 values, the first value applies to the top left corner. The second value applies to the top right corner. The third value applies to the bottom right corner. And the fourth value applies to the bottom left corner. For example,
border dash radius colon, 15px 50px 30px 5px semi.
Let's go through this by character.
B, O, R, D, E, R, dash, R, A, D, I, U, S, colon, space, 1, 5, P, X, space, 5, 0, P, X, space, 3, 0, P, X, space, 5, P, X, semi.
Now, when it has 3 values, the first value applies to the top left corner. The second value applies to the top right and bottom left corners. And the third value applies to the bottom right corner. For example,
border dash radius colon, 15px 50px 30px semi.
Now, when it has 2 values, the first value applies to the top left and bottom right corners, and the second value applies to the top right and bottom left corners. For example,
border dash radius colon, 15px 50px semi.
And when it has 1 value, the value applies to all 4 corners which are rounded equally. For example,
border dash radius colon, 15px semi.
Note that you can represent these values with any of the CSS length units or a percentage. So a complete example of a rounded border is
H1 left brace, 2 space border colon, 5px solid blue semi, border dash radius colon, 15px semi, no indent right brace.
And that is it, guys, for borders in CSS. Hopefully it helped you. And remember to check out the other videos, whether it is for CSS colors or for the box model and CSS units. So that is it. Once again, guys, please remember to like the video if you love the content, subscribe if you're new, and to turn on that notification bell to be alerted whenever I post the next video. Also, share up the thing, man. Share it up, right? Share it to your friends, because I'm sure a lot of persons around there need to know this vital information as well. So, thanks again, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.